This is the reality show on Calabash TV.
This is the reality show on Calabash TV for yet another Monday, and we're happy to welcome back to our studio from a short sabbatical, Ambrose.
Yes.
It's good to have you back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
And Michael is back with us as well.
Oh yes, it's nice to be back, but the only thing is Ambrose never told us why he wasn't there. He always had something to say.
We'll have to launch an inquiry, I guess, or wait for him to file a report.
Investigations.
You know what I mean, to find out, but he's pretty fine, so I guess all's well.
Yes.
All's well with Ambrose. It's the end of August, and so a couple of things happening. Back to school is right around the corner. A lot of students are going back to university, back to school. And also there's CARIFESTA happening in Trinidad at the same time. I'm not sure if you gentlemen are following CARIFESTA at all?
To some degree I am. I am because my niece, Pultench, she's...
Oh, she's there?
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
she's at CARIFESTA, and she's doing I think they have a play, I think, with Hayden Ford, I think.
Oh, really?
Is
Okay.
it Hayden Ford? Yes.
No, it's
It's Hayden Ford, right?
no, it's
Or is it
two young
Peter?
ladies who wrote a
Peter,
play.
I'm not too sure.
Right, but she anyway, Pultench is in
But
Trinidad.
but there's not that play. She's doing it. I think they have, because I think there are about 81 people.
It's a large
It's a large
delegation.
contingent. So they actually quite a few of them, and so she's amongst them.
Oh, excellent.
Well, the only thing I took out of it was the opening ceremony, and I must say we must give a big thumbs up to what's his name, that local artist that the theme song.
Mm-hmm. Arthur?
Yeah, it's very popular song, very nice song.
Yeah.
It has a meaning,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he needs to be applauded for that.
So, well, I look at it a little differently. I mean, I'm happy Arthur's music is in there, but I was thinking for that kind of a global CARIFESTA, global cultural platform, showcase, that the musician in me, I was thinking that if I was Arthur, or probably the organizers of this, I would have the same song, same lyrics, because it's beautiful lyrics, well written and well delivered, same artist, same everything, but I'll just put a little folk music, give it a different treatment. So when the Trinidadians hear it, it'll be sounding more St. Lucian, because soca sounds Trinidadian. So to me, to give it a more distinct, because when I heard it, I'm saying that's perfect song for the occasion, but I'd want to give it a folk treatment, even if the secret band kind of treatment, and it would have been beautiful, and make it distinctly St. Lucian, as opposed to Trinidad used to soca, so they had another soca song, and so that was my take on that song. But it's a beautiful song, it's well written, and it's quite appropriate for the occasion as well.
And Bernard, what made it even nicer was the drummer. They dance into the song. They really performed it well, and I think we must give a big thumbs up to both Arthur and the participants in the way they responded to it.
Yeah, it was a good vibe. I liked the vibe, the energy that came out on stage, and so on. It's a nice blend. It's a nice mix of young performers with the seasoned performers, because I think Robert Lee's there, Kendall Hippolyte is there. There's some new. In fact, the play that they're doing was written by two very young ladies, who I think were just coming out of school. So you get the next generation of writers putting on, and that's a massive achievement for them to have their play featured at CARIFESTA. The only thing, Michael, and it's just an observation from my part in terms of the opening, and the presentation was beautiful, I just thought that the St. Lucians should have been dressed differently, more culturally, as opposed to
black and
the kind of a khaki pants and so on. To me, again, me and my mind, and thinking this is a cultural showcase, I would have even given it like even a Lawas kind of thing. I'd have a king and a queen.
Madras type.
Mix it up, a little madras, get some designers to do something creative with the madras, so you give the designers some profile, plus you showcase your culture. So I'd have a little Lawas king and queen doing a little thing just to tease people, let people ask you, well, what is this about, what's this tradition about? So I was just thinking that I want to see a little more energy, well, in terms of creativity in because you have like 2 minutes or 3 minutes to showcase to the world, and so what you want them to remember, because so every other country had their cultural wear, or their national wear, or their national colors.
I remember Dominica was so well presented.
Dominica, Haiti, and so for the St. Lucia part, I was just thinking I wanted to see something more St. Lucian. I know they had the St. Lucian, the banded T-shirts and so on.
758,
which is excellent, because now that's what we have to have a discussion nationally as well, because that 758 thing is more, if it's a tourism initiative. I imagine you want people to know about St. Lucia and so on, but to me, if it's a cultural showcase, you want the world to know about your culture. So I understand the two objectives. One is to let people know about St. Lucia, and the second one is to let people know about your culture. And to me, I would have taken the route of exposing my culture at that level. But that's just my observation. But it was a very wonderful opening, and St. Lucians accounted pretty well. But just some thought I would have wanted in terms of how they were dressed and so on.
I was going to ask, is Calabash carrying features from CARIFESTA?
Yeah, actually, yes. There is actually a cameraman from here who's up there with CDF. And so they're sending footage every day. So you can check our Facebook page, also on Calabash TV.
Well, what time does Calabash show it?
Well, we're running it all day, but because they're sending little reports. So as soon as we get it, we upload it.
Right.
But we're also putting it on our Facebook page, so you can go. And I think Stan Bishop is there. He's also up there.
Yes.
He's working with the camera guy along with Rajvaro Lawrence from GIS as well. So they're compiling and documenting and sending out the material, I guess, via social media as well, so you're getting quite a lot of pictures.
But I was thinking it's quite good, because normally CARIFESTA is happening, you don't really know what's going on. Mm-hmm. You kind of just know that there's CARIFESTA, and then the thing comes to an end, and then it's like, okay, what was it all about? Mm-hmm. But it's really good that an effort is being made to actually present and to make sure that there's constant update. There actually are constant updates, for the nation. That's good.
Yeah, but one thing, like we discussed previously, I think leading up to CARIFESTA, I think a lot more needs to be done publicity-wise. Because, like I said, up to the point where Bernard mentioned CARIFESTA is about to begin, I was totally oblivious to that.
That's true.
I think we need to do better to ensure that the general public is so hyped that CARIFESTA isn't coming, and we will, for us to do whatever it takes to make sure we follow and push our people into supporting.
Well, the production has been put on in Trinidad was actually put on here, I think, a couple of times before.
Yes.
Before they left.
I remember that.
Yeah, so they did have the presentation at the but again, you see, you didn't know, so that they should have driven that in terms of publicity and so on. Let St. Lucians know.
But is it a matter of, well, I guess government's paying for it, and so you kind of take a laid-back approach to it? Or do you think that maybe if it was private individuals, because when you see any little fete that is happening here, the people make an effort to really push the fete, and so you know what's going on. Look, they just had that thing last weekend there in Pigeon Island. Everybody knew about it weeks in advance, and people were looking forward to it. So really and truly, maybe that needs to be done.
I think what needs to be done, whether it's government or whatever department it is, to take the social media route, because everybody now, learn of events through social media. Mm-hmm. And I think if it was posted on social media as other events are, I think almost everybody would have known about it, and I just think it's moving forward. That a lot more needs to be done to ensure that the general public knows and follows this.
But saying it's good, because when Stan told me he was going to cover the event, I thought that's a step in the right direction. Yeah. So that was really good.
Yeah. And I think we did mention that when those things are happening, it's always good to have the press along as well. Because as a government official, if you go as a government delegation, you just go, you do your event and you come back. But the press has an objective, which is to get the word out. So Stan has to ensure that the word gets out. So if it was just a government delegation, they would just do their thing and come back. And if you know, if you don't know, well.
And again, like you just mentioned, I think we have to give a thumbs up to Stan also. Mm-hmm. I think lately Stan has been doing a very good job.
He's doing a great job
in putting out there, the things that take place, whether in St. Lucia or otherwise. Mm-hmm. Again, through social media. So I think we need to commend him on that.
Because I think recently they released a new magazine. I think it's really interesting. I've been following Stan's blog quite a bit, and I must confess, I find he's highlighting a lot of things St. Lucian, and I really like the direction he's going.
Yeah, he does, and Stan is a hard worker.
He reminds me of Calabash, I would say, on an individual, kind of basis. He reminds me, because Calabash, anytime you want to know something St. Lucian, you can go to Calabash.
Right, and so we do communicate with Stan quite a bit as well, because when he was going, we spoke about doing some. In fact, he did a report for us when he had just landed in Trinidad as well. So, and that's what we try to do, trying to encourage what is positively St. Lucian, what is representing us. And I was having a discussion with Terry Finiston. I was saying, imagine there's so many St. Lucian teams going overseas and we have no idea who they are. So at least if we get a sense of, we don't want to just know them when they win something. When you're out there representing, once you're representing 758, we ought to know what the captain of a team looks like, as opposed to only when they win we organize steel band and a welcome at the airport. But we've been through that a couple of a couple of times already. And very quickly, I wanted to just touch before, I know there's some heavy topics we have to discuss in just a while. I just got a note about the Parliament meeting tomorrow, so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But I keep stressing the scholarship thing. I just saw that the Taiwan government giving like 22 scholarships and so on, and so I think I did mention about people getting ready to go back to university, back to school, and which is quite good because people get energized when they have to go overseas and study. And I was thinking that again that we need to revisit this thing about St. Lucia giving 2 island scholars. We need to do better than that as a country. We cannot just be giving, because I know students who did exceptionally well at A levels and so on, and they can't go because it's 2 island scholars.
But I think what you said is quite true, and I think I'm almost in a position to say I think probably the authorities were listening to or followed our program when we discussed that, because just recently I understood government has reinstated the partial scholarship, or how we call it, for teachers or public servants.
Right.
Also, I think I read somewhere, is it the Moroccan government or some foreign government?
All the
offered some scholarships for locals. So I think whilst all that has been done, but like you just mentioned, I think more than one island scholarship should be given. I think so many scholarships are offered all over the place. We should be able to find a donor or donors to offer more island scholars.
Yeah, but Michael, what I'm saying is the government needs to put some of our taxpayers' money into it. I was just reading from Antigua. The Prime Minister said there are 1,600 Antiguans on scholarship, and the government has a scholarship fund of $25 million. Okay. So,
here's the interesting thing. The other day I was listening to, I think, the Mexican ambassador, I think about a year or two ago, and I discovered that Mexico offers 100 scholarships.
Wow.
Now, here's the interesting thing about it is, although they offer 100 scholarships, but people somehow are not taking it on. I don't know if it's because people are afraid to go to Mexico, or whether people might be thinking Mexico, and maybe Trump making Mexico look so terrible, so maybe people are worried about going to Mexico. But the thing about it is, I think really and truly, it's a good sign if government decides that it's going to make an effort. I mean, just imagine if we could increase the island scholarship quantity to, let's say, 100 a year for university, that is. St. Lucian government paying for St. Lucians to go and study overseas, 100. And I said, just take a model actually from the British. Even SLDB, for example, put in money for SLB, that if people do go and take loans, they can take loans through SLDB, even if they don't qualify for the scholarship. In the UK, I know that if you go and study, the government will help you get your loan, right? They actually make accommodation for that, and they have a chart. If you earn a certain amount of money, you do not, and it's not reaching the mark, you don't pay the loan back. But once you start earning past a certain amount of money, you are expected to start repaying your loan. I think government, the population belongs to the government belongs to the population, right? So we are all supposed to be one, and if you can develop your people, then you will develop your nation in that. I think I see nothing wrong with giving money, tons of money if necessary, to educate your population, because any wise prime minister or minister of government will know that for you to truly develop your nation, you need to educate the nation.
And I really want to get some more details on the Antigua situation, because I also understand in terms of school books, I think, are free, uniforms are free. I need to really find out about the Antigua model, because if they can do it. And St. Lucia is supposed to be leading in the OECS. And so I need to get some more details on it, but I understand that in Antigua that the government takes care of educating its people. Quickly before we take a break, I wanted to talk a little bit about nurses, because I know there was a lot of talk about nurses leaving, and I heard the president of the Caribbean Nurses Association or some organization like that saying she was concerned about nurses migrating and so on, and she's saying that the retention policies or the strategies need to be revised and so on. And I found her statement kind of curious, because she was saying that we need to keep those nurses at home. And the way I'm thinking is that if if there's such a big demand for our nurses, the quality of our nursing and so on, let the nurses go, and then just make sure you have a good replacement program so you can fill the void, because everybody else is leaving in every other sector once they get an opportunity. So why you want to keep the nurses there? And if we have such a good program that is feeding first world countries, let them go. We get remittances. I mean, there's so many positives as opposed to keeping the nurses home frustrated.
I see it differently, Bernard. Whereas I understand what you're saying, but I think the thing is, it costs so much to get a nurse qualified to the point where that nurse will leave. I think what we can do is use the same institutions here that educate and qualify our nurses to get nurses from other Caribbean countries to come in and do the course of study in St. Lucia. Of course, we will be recognized for having that institution. Number two, of course, it will be some form of extra monies coming into the country, because they would have to pay to do that curriculum. So I think it is a little heavy on the government and on the nation to have gotten a nurse up to a point, qualified, and to know that within months or a year or two of that nurse getting qualified have to leave to go to a foreign country, and then you have to go back and train more nurses. I think the government ought to do everything possible to keep our nurses here. If the remuneration is not good enough, nurses go through a lot. I think the nurses need to be well paid and well taken care of, so as to encourage them to stay, because a nurse don't just leave here because they're getting a job overseas. Because it's more lucrative overseas. That's why they're leaving. So I think the onus is on the authorities to ensure that the nurses are well taken care of, both financially and in every other aspect, to cause them to stay.
Well, Michael, let me challenge you on that, because to me, I wouldn't train regional nurses and then export the regional nurses to America and the UK and keep our nurses home, even if we're paying them more. I understand what you're saying about it's a strain, but to me, that's how you develop your people. You send them out there. I'd rather have solutions overseas doing well, and establishing, your country, as opposed to keeping them here. And plus, you have to make space for upward mobility. You have to create space for the new nurses to come through the ropes, the ranks, and so on.
Bernard, whilst it is true, but there will come a time there will be a dearth of the profession, the professionals at the hospitals and institutions to take care of the people.
No,
because if they keep leaving, and they're leaving in droves, the time it will take to get another batch of nurses qualified, you have that lull and avoid that people will
I'm going to get to Ambrose now. That's what I was saying. You need to have a program to replace them. So if you know nurses are going to leave in 2 years' time, you make sure that you train nurses to be able to fill that void.
That's if you know when they're leaving.
Well, you can gauge based. nurses get to a certain point. When they get certain qualifications, they figure the opportunities out there, I'll leave. And so you have nurses groomed and waiting. And as soon as I just find, as an economic model, if the UK or the US needs quality nurses and we can supply them, why not?
But the thing is it that that the nurses that are coming from here are so qualified that, like, when they go to America or in the UK, that basically the UK, they're dying for them, and so they're basically trying to say that the UK and the US are not training their nurses to the same standard. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, because the thing is, there are hospitals in the UK where their equipment is better than what we use in St. Lucia now. But what I think it might be is simply that the nurses themselves that are here, the training is good, and the training is good. But I was speaking to a friend of mine who said that she wants to be a nurse, and it's expensive. It's very expensive, and so to get people to get a turnover, reasonably speedily, it's difficult sometimes, because not a lot of people can afford it. And I could actually agree both with Michael and with yourself in that there needs to be a standard which actually is created so that we can have better nurses, and we can have better wages for nurses and things like that. But at the same time, I think it's good if a nurse can go overseas, because they get an experience that maybe you can get them to bring back to St. Lucia to even improve upon the quality of what we do here. Because I am certain that the equipment they use overseas and all of that is a lot better than what we possibly use here.
Whilst I understand what you're saying, and I agree with some of what you said, but our nurses, I must say, our nurses in St. Lucia are better trained than most other Caribbean countries. I'm sure, I don't know if you could recall the time there was the Cuban nurses, whatever, they were going to Cuba to. When they came back here, they were not qualified. And they had
That's
to
right,
do,
they
they
had to
had to
do
do
the
another
exam.
course of study
That's
here
right. I remember
to
that.
get qualified. And what based on what I'm told, any nurse that is qualified through our institutions here is qualified to work almost anywhere in the Caribbean. So this is why I think we should try to take the initiative to have those persons come into St. Lucia to do the curriculum, get trained. Okay, like I said, it will mean so much for the country, and you could go back to your country. And if when you reach there, you want to migrate, so be it. Yes, I agree. There will always be migration in whatever field. All right, but based on my understanding, majority of the nurses that are migrating, they're migrating simply because the pasture is greener out there than in St. Lucia. And of course, what we need to do to keep the experience, because like I said, whilst you may be able to train another batch of nurses within record time, you need the experience.
Exactly.
Okay, and we need to ensure we do everything possible to harness the experience. While some will go, but you will do whatever it takes to keep some to maintain that experience at all times.
Yeah, I think we need a good balance, because I don't want to prevent anybody who wants to go overseas to the greener pastures, as you mentioned. If it's green, go ahead. That's why keep you home. And you know, we all know what the health system is like here. So it's not like there's a green pasture here. But if we have something good happening, because musicians, when they get a chance, they leave, they don't come back. Students, when they go, they don't come back. If you go to the U.S. Embassy now, there are a lot of St. Lucians looking for green cards to run away. So if the nurses want to do their thing, we just want to make sure that we have good quality nurses to replace them and so on. But I agree.
I was just actually thinking. I've been looking at what's happening in America with the amount of people that were suffering under Trump, and I've been thinking, why is it that most like African nations, Caribbean nations, we tend to run away to America and to the UK to build these nations, and then sometimes these nations don't even want us. In reality, they don't really want us. I am actually really beginning to believe that we need, as a nation, to have more pride in our nation, and we need government that understands that, and we need citizens who actually understand the need to build what we have. I honestly believe we need that. So we don't need to go to America. We can build our own and become strong amongst our own selves. Utilize them as we can. The internet is there, but at the same time, our focus should be on building St. Lucia.
This is quite true. But again, like I said a while ago, we need to create the environment that would cause them, because of course, every young person wants a vehicle. Every young person wants to have a piece of St. Lucia. Every young person would want a home. But the meager salaries that have been paid at those institutions, how long will it take them to do that? Whilst you leave here, go to the US or somewhere, to the UK, and within 5 years you could at least save.
Your money is doubled
automatically. You save at least enough to come back and invest. What my point here is, at those institutions, like the hospitals and the public, the health centers, I believe those persons need to be paid well enough that would encourage them to stay here, that would cause them to be able to buy a piece of St. Lucia. Because more often than not, you'll find persons sitting at another department who does less than half the work that a nurse may do. Okay, and their remuneration is much better than those nurses. So we need to at all times look at the whilst we want caliber of a good caliber of nurses, but again you cannot get that, or you will not be able to retain the experience if they are not paid properly.
Yeah, okay.
This is the reality show on Calabash TV. We have a lot more to discuss right here with Ambrose and Michael. Stay tuned. We will be back shortly.
You are watching the reality show streaming live on stluciafirst.com.
Connected. Give us 5 minutes and we'll connect you to all things Lucelec. 5 minutes and see what we're doing to get electricity to you. 5 minutes and we'll connect you with Lucelec's planned developments. Connected.
Together, we can stop many childhood diseases, help our children grow strong and live healthy. Vaccination. It's our gift of health to your little one. Bring your baby and come get it. It's free. For further information, please contact your nearest community wellness center or private doctor. All in, get vaccinated. Nurses will be visiting homes and schools to verify the health cards of children ages 0 to 5 years old. This is a message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
This summer, get ready, set for school with the Educator or Educator Plus loan from the St. Lucia Civil Service Cooperative Credit Union. No more back-to-school stress. The Educator loans will take care of everything you need, including school fees, materials, and supplies. Up to $10,000 for primary and secondary students, and up to $20,000 for young adults with affordable payments for up to 4 years. Call or visit us for more information today. The Educator and Educator Plus loan only at the St. Lucia Civil Service Cooperative Credit Union. Save and borrow with pride. Terms and conditions apply.
My sisters, come let us go. Massy have everything for you. Quality goods, the best for true. Massy, you can make. Come on. Go in my sisters, cause they're leading. My sisters have everything. Appliance and grocery shopping. My sisters, they have for you. Like you don't understand, well, hear me. Massy is the best in the country. No other can do it like Massy. No, baby, no. Tell them pack your groceries in a Massy bag. Massy stores is acting the country. Johnny comes to help we. And for who did the part, thank you for more heart. Massy stores is doing everything they can do. Massy stores, come let us go. Massy have everything for you. Quality goods, the best for true. Massy looking at. This is Farmer Happy from Massy Stores. Our family serving your family. Come on.
This is our reality, Calabash TV.
This is the reality show on Calabash TV, and with me in studio, we are happy to have back with us Ambrose, and also Michael is here with us as well. And how should I call it now? We're getting into the into the zone. The Parliament is meeting on Tuesday, and whenever Parliament meets these days, it's to borrow money, which is, to me, that shouldn't be the entire function of Parliament. Your legislature, you make laws, you discuss policies and everything else. But the reality is that when Parliament meets, it's normally to discuss money bills. And Ambrose, top of the list for, well, there are quite a few bills, but obviously
Airport?
the airport borrowing is on top of the list. And let me just read very quickly. Be it resolved that Parliament authorizes the Minister for Finance to guarantee a loan in the amount of 202 million, and a few 202 million is more than that.
202 million?
Read this number for me.
I don't have my glasses, but that looks like 202 and a half.
Right.
2.25.
2.25.
Right. But anyway, it's quite a huge sum of money, and it's coming. It's from a syndicate of banks led by the Bank of St. Lucia, and from the Bank of St. Lucia, 58 million, from First National Bank, 54 million, from the Grenada Cooperative Bank, 40 million, from Antigua Commercial Bank, 24 million, from the Eastern Caribbean Amalgamated Bank, 24 million.
Oh, dear Lord. I mean, I don't get it. I just don't get it. Didn't Parliament meet just the other day to loan $202 million from Bank of St. Lucia? Just a few months ago, I think Parliament met to loan $202 million from the Bank of St. Lucia.
No, I don't think it's a total amount from Bank of St. Lucia. There was a certain amount from Bank of St. Lucia, but they did meet recently.
But that's apart from that.
Yeah, because
last time we were having the discussion here.
So they probably
it was a
borrowed from the
loan of
bank.
202 million from Bank of St. Lucia. Yeah, the last loan, when Parliament met the last time, the loan was from Bank of St. Lucia. There was no amalgamation.
But I don't think it would be the total
conglomerates
202
or whatever.
million. It won't be so much from Bank.
That's what the figure was, if I remember.
I think they were seeking
I remember
approval
very
to
well.
borrow that amount, but not all of it
From
from
Bank of
one
St.
bank.
Lucia, no.
Yeah, I don't think you'd find any government would borrow that much from
From a bank,
any
yeah,
one
not even
time.
the bank.
But that was the discussion. As a matter of fact, I remember that being the discussion. That amount of money from Bank of St. Lucia. As a matter of fact, I mean, I know it's been 3 months and we probably have forgotten by now, but I clearly remember the argument was, wow, that quantity of money from the Bank of St. Lucia. That was a lot of money to give to the Bank of St. Lucia. And there were all these questions being asked as to whether the Bank of St. Lucia had informed its customers and shareholders and all that. There was all this argument. The money was from Bank of St. Lucia. What I'm asking is how much money? So the government needs about $500 million, $600 million for the airport. Is it about that?
It's quite a lot, yes.
It's a lot of money, right?
Yeah, for the airport. And so I guess now what I wanted to factor in is because we're getting some of it from Taiwan as well.
Yeah.
150 million.
Right, from Taiwan as well. So it's adding up to quite a fair
US, that is,
fair change. Yes.
The 150 million was US. Was it not?
I think based on my understanding, the loan from Taiwan is funding, I think, almost half the project. So the other half is of course the government has to.
So it is US then.
It is US. It is US.
Of course, the government is SLASPA, the government with a government guarantee.
SLASPA, boy, SLASPA seems to have a lot of assets. Huh?
Yeah, that's quite a huge. Now, what is interesting is that it's spreading it across the Eastern Caribbean. So we're borrowing from the Grenada Cooperative Bank, the First National, the Antigua Commercial Bank, and also the Eastern Caribbean Amalgamated Bank. So
I was going to ask the question. Since I remember when the first attempt at getting a loan, the conversation was about there will be a steady revenue stream coming from the airport itself, right? It's through the taxes and the airport and things like that. So, has anybody given any assessment as to how Virgin pulling out of St. Lucia is going to affect our revenue stream? Has the government given any information to the public as to how Virgin pulling out of St. Lucia next year? Is it June? Is it June?
yes, next year.
It's June.
Middle of next year. Yes.
June next year. I know it's June next year. Has there been any assessment as to how much this is going to cost us in terms of affecting our revenue stream in St. Lucia via the airport, which would be the means by which supposedly these loans being taken by SLASPA or the government via SLASPA is going to, how is it really going to affect us as a nation? And really and truly, will we be able to make the money to pay these loans back?
Well, I understand what you're saying, and I respect that. Of course, it is something that needs to be looked into. But first and foremost, we must also understand that it is not final that Virgin is pulling out. They're still under discussion. As a matter of fact, there is a team that is supposed to travel to the UK to continue discussions with Virgin as to whether an alternative could be put in place. Secondly, I think it has been made known that even whilst it is not final yet, but the government has started negotiations with other airlines to increase the capacity into St. Lucia. Of course, this is something that everybody should be concerned about when you hear a major airline like Virgin pulling out from any territory. It will have serious implications for our tourism sector, and I think we ought to pay attention. But I was a little gratified to hear that it is not totally said that Virgin will actually leave. I think they've made the request, and I think a committee has been put in place where persons were co-opted into that committee to continue negotiations with Virgin.
But according to the information I read from Virgin themselves, I mean, in terms of finality, I think Virgin has declared I'm saying the letter I saw from Virgin. I saw a letter from Virgin, and they clearly declared that they are not going to be in St. Lucia as of June. That's a letter from Virgin. As of June, they wrote that they will not be in St. Lucia as of June 2020. I clearly remember reading that letter. Now, I am not saying that the government may not be seeking some kind of attention from Virgin to see if maybe they can reverse. But in terms of conclusion, Virgin has already concluded that. But I'm saying if anything is going to happen, is a possible reversal of the decision that has been made. But clearly Virgin has declared that they are not going to be in St. Lucia as of June 2020. I say kudos to the government if they are seeking to renegotiate with Virgin to see if they can get Virgin to reverse the decision, because obviously we will all benefit if the government does that. Okay, but at the same time, for sure, in terms of conclusion, as far as I have seen nothing from Virgin that indicates that they are in talks with the government. I don't know if the government is saying that themselves.
But it could be a
the
negotiating
Minister of Tourism has not said that, has it?
Yes, the Ministry of Tourism did say that. It came out on the news. It was of course it was widely publicized.
Okay, I didn't hear that. So
I think what's in Mr. Aziz at the Tourist Board, SLHTA. I think he was the one who made it clear that he believed from very early in the game they should have been brought in the discussions to assist. Right. And I think since then that has been done, where I think they've selected a few people from a committee to continue
to try and renegotiate whatever has happened.
Whether it's renegotiate or
renegotiate for sure.
But it could also be a kind of a negotiating strategy on the part of Virgin Atlantic. Say, listen, I'm getting out next year. If you really want me, let's talk.
Yeah. Could be too. It's business at the end of the day.
So that they give them enough time. I'm giving you a year to figure it out. If we're not coming to some arrangement, then we move on next year. If we come to an arrangement, they should come out of it a little better than they are now. So it could be a negotiating strategy as well.
They did make it clear, again, the authorities here, that all is not lost, with my reference to Virgin, because negotiations are still ongoing.
Okay, so
and if that's the case, and if it's a case where Virgin does get something, then other airlines will say, "Come on,
that's
well, the argument says that because one of the things, I mean, but I say there's nothing wrong if the government can swallow its pride and admit maybe they were wrong in the first place, because don't forget, all these surrogates have been saying, Virgin trying to get $2.5 million from the government annually for whatever, and so they should not be given that kind of money. And I thought people were speaking out of turn, and I liked what Stephenson King said. I liked what Stephenson King said on the matter when he clearly says that sometimes, we have to mind what we say. Yeah, we have to mind what we say, and I think it was a little rebuke for Dominic Fede. Because Dominic Fede was quick in terms of what he was saying, because this is a national matter. This is a national matter. It's not UWP that's going to affect all St. Lucians. And I think it's really great if Virgin is willing to renegotiate, or like you said, even if it's a ploy, but at least somebody can come to a conclusion and say the game is still on. So maybe something good might come out of it.
I agree with you, but we need to understand, whilst Virgin may make it public that come 2020 that there is a possibility we may no longer be in St. Lucia. Again, it may be a negotiating ploy. Whilst the government too initially will say, look, we are not going there. Again, that's probably to put pressure on Virgin, knowing, okay, the route is lucrative to Virgin, and if Virgin is trying that on, why not say, look, I'm not doing it, to see Virgin will say, okay, well, let us meet and discuss and chop it down or do something else. I think the approach is good, and if anything could be done to salvage, Virgin staying in St. Lucia, I'd be happy. Whilst I think negotiations are still ongoing, I think the authorities need to of course broaden the horizon and see in the event Virgin were to pull out, to ensure that there is no shortfall in the seating capacity coming into St. Lucia from the UK.
I was just going to say also, but let's not ignore the fact that Antigua is getting extra from flights from Virgin as of June 2020, which I think kind of shows is like maybe they just remove St. Lucia and give it to Antigua. And at the same time, I understood that now Virgin is actually in negotiations. They're trying to increase or to get into Guyana. That's the latest news that I've heard too, that they're trying. And I understood that Delta now is kind of the one that's given a lot of directions, because Virgin is kind of gone in with Delta. So that's part of what's going on there too. So, I mean, put it this way, like I said, for me, I think it's great if we can get Virgin to stay here. Guys, I've always said, whenever I travel, I used to travel British Airways. And I must confess, when I started traveling Virgin, I enjoyed Virgin a lot better. I found the flights were a lot better. I'm not saying that British Airways is crap, but at the same time, I used to enjoy flying Virgin. So it would be good if Virgin stays here. But at the same time, let's see. let's see what the government can do.
And I was, a while short, I was thinking if part of that negotiation had anything to do with Liat as well, because somebody needs to find some kind of solution to Liat at some point in time, because if some governments are not going to put money into it, and if Liat is going to keep struggling the way it is, I think somebody did mention that there was some interest from Virgin in at least having a discussion on Liat as well, because the Liat issue has not been resolved, and we're not quite sure. Because that's what you're into, Michael, the transportation sector. I think that's somebody was mentioning that we really need to pay some attention to the transportation sector in these parts, because I was at the ferry terminal and I'm seeing, there are these French boats doing a thriving business between St. Lucia and Martinique, and where are we in the scheme of things? We're missing in action.
I think sometime a year or 2 years ago, some local did indicate that very soon there will be a ferry.
There is a charter. I'm not sure if
I
it's
think
a
there's
regular.
one. There's one. I think it goes to St. Vincent.
Yeah, St. Vincent ferry.
No, but one goes to Martinique
they were
too.
looking to broaden to serve the Caribbean.
I think there is one actually.
So
I know there's a charter for sure. That goes to Martinique.
I'm hoping. Of course, that thing, if it's not on stream, it will become, a reality sometime soon, because traveling within the Caribbean has become so expensive. It is cheaper to travel to Miami, or it takes you less time to travel to Miami and then to Jamaica than flying with Liat island hopping to get to Jamaica.
Why? I'm trying to figure out why.
It takes you a lot less time. So, I mean, just imagine having to go to Barbados and your flight will cost you in the region of $1,000 to go just across to Barbados. It goes to show that something needs to be done. And having mentioned Barbados, I just recently I read somewhere that the Barbados government literally sold their shares in Liat.
Oh, they did?
Yes.
I know they were thinking about it.
No, but I understood that they would try. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I think the Prime Minister of Antigua, I understood that he was basically saying that whatever is going on with Liat, some of the governments are trying, because I understood that Barbados has been trying to start their own airline, their own Caribbean airline.
Well, I have not heard of that, but I think I'm sure I pretty much read that Barbados has sold its shares.
And so they were saying that basically they're trying to sabotage Liat in the process, because I read that apparently Barbados wants to start its own airline.
Whilst that may be true, but I think we need to start looking at it from a different perspective. Whilst I believe we need an airline like Liat operating in the Caribbean, but when for so many years Liat has continuously run south of profit margin, of course there will come a time when governments who have invested the monies into Liat will look in a different direction. And I think one of the prime ministers made it clear that once the management of Liat stays in Antigua, the problem will remain, and of course they were looking to move the headquarters. If the suggestion was moving the headquarters of Liat from Antigua and see what happens, and it may very well be a case where if that happens, Liat could probably find itself doing better, but who knows?
But interestingly, you should say that. But Gaston Brown has been asking for more shares in Liat so that Antigua can have, because Antigua doesn't have a controlling share in Liat. Gaston Brown, he's been asking for them to sell him more shares, and they don't want to sell him more shares.
I'm sure they probably bought the shares from Barbados.
Because I haven't read that of late, but because there are 4 countries basically that are the shareholders of Liat, and I find it really truly. But one is good is, what we need to do. I really think we need to have a discussion on why Liat is not profitable. I mean, everybody talks about Liat and its difficulties. Are governments within the Caribbean, I'm including St. Lucia in there, have they been guilty of probably causing some of the demise of Liat?
Go ahead,
I'm of the opinion that I think the management structure of Liat may very well be the cause. The thing is, the market is there. We have no other airline doing the routes that Liat is doing, okay? But again, Liat is never on time, and these days I understand they want to be on time so much that they leave before time. Right? They leave before time. So you find there is always an issue with Liat. And like I just said a while ago, I mean, why should it cost so much to travel from here to there just a few minutes? Why should it cost so much? All right?
Taxes?
Again, it may very well be taxes.
Yeah, we keep hearing a lot about the taxes
Right.
and so on. That the taxes, because the islands put so much tax on Liat that it's difficult for them to become, because people are not traveling because tickets are too expensive. And so now, as you were speaking, I was wondering if it could be, and I did think about it some time ago, that we speaking about the management of Liat, that the same way the ECCB was able to put a management team in place to take on banks in Anguilla, banks in Antigua that collapsed. Let the ECCB come in and put a management, at least for the next 2-3 years, and manage Liat up to a point where it can become viable, and insist that the governments give Liat a break for at least 2 or 3 years, because if we travel, the countries benefit. And if Liat can have a ferry service as well in some of the areas that are not profitable to fly a plane. Because I'd like to see a Liat ferry from here to Martinique, let Liat make the money as opposed to the French who come in here and just have a monopoly on our...
They have the monopoly.
You know, so why let Liat compete with the French?
Yeah.
Give them a ferry.
And they don't give anything really to us.
Interesting and true, Bernard. But the thing is, based on my understanding, you find some of the shareholders are resisting that approach, because I think some of the shareholders are steadfast that whilst some are saying, or one or two might be saying, move the headquarters out of Antigua, I think some are steadfast that it should remain in Antigua, all right? And of course, the same thing they fight in because I remember at one time, that's many years ago, St. Lucian, Mr. Payne, was given the mandate to reform Liat and to see whether he could have gotten Liat out of the mess that he was in. He went there and he did his best. And I think there have been so many other CEOs after him, and they still have not been able to get Liat out of the doldrums.
You see, once Liat is run as a government department, it's going to remain like that. Government departments don't operate to make a profit or to be, to be run sustainably. So that's why I'm saying we need to bring somebody else, and they have to be mature enough. All the prime ministers who are shareholders be mature enough to let the ECCB or somebody else, CDB, run it. Set up an organization to run it until it becomes profitable. Because as it's currently going on there, I don't think they'll just. And the sad thing is that they keep putting money into Liat. They keep bailing out Liat every time, but they're not dealing with the issue. Just like you're feeding a diabetic sugar, but you're not dealing with the fact that you need to get them off sugar. And I think Liat is in the same... I don't think...
That's a perfect description.
I don't think the governments want to resolve Liat at all.
That's a perfect description. Because you need it, because you can't do without Liat. And I don't care what anybody says. Like Michael just said, Liat runs routes that other airlines are not running. You understand? So we need Liat, but at the same time, the governments need... Barbados, I think, Barbados is the majority shareholder in Liat. It's actually Barbados as the majority shareholder. And what I find strange, and I'll tell you, there seems to be a lot of cloak and dagger thing going on there. Because if Barbados is the majority shareholder in Liat, why is it that I'm hearing that Barbados is plotting to start their own national airline? To try and run the same routes as Liat.
But Ambrose, if it's not working, because even if I'm a shareholder and I can't get cooperation from anybody else, I might as well go start my own thing.
So sell your shares.
No, but
that's what they're doing. Is that what you said they're doing?
They just did.
That's what Michael is saying that they just did.
How soon was that?
No, that was just recently. In fact, it's as we speak, it's ongoing.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I didn't know that.
Yeah, because Trinidad has the Caribbean Airlines and so on. So let Barbados start it.
But Bernard, the suggestion that have been floated around for a while, as a reference to Liat, is get smaller aircrafts, because 90% of the times Liat leaves St. Lucia or leave the Caribbean half empty.
So here's the thing to that, Michael, is us, because there was some kind of a study done about that same thing, that get smaller aircrafts. Two things: I think Caribbean people didn't want to travel in smaller aircrafts, but secondly, most of the St. Lucians were coming from the US and so on with big, massive suitcases. They had issues when they transferred to a smaller airline. And so Liat had to get a bigger airline to be able to take the suitcases and so on. So there was that dynamic that they had to deal with as well. And so they opted to stick with the bigger airlines, because you don't want to be connecting, especially when you're connecting like St. Vincent, for example, a Virgin or British Airways lands in Barbados, to fly to St. Vincent. If you have a small plane that can take my suitcases, what's the point?
No, that's not what I was suggesting. There are routes that, or certain flights that you can use those small aircrafts to, like from St. Lucia. I mean, you know how much time it takes you to leave St. Lucia and go to Dominica, or leave St. Lucia, go to St. Vincent, I think. You have to go, round and round
It's
and
like
round.
an hour.
Hours. No, more than that.
Oh,
More than
that's
that.
changed over time.
Yes.
You serious?
A lot more than that.
I remember this when
Right?
I used to travel
So-
from St. Lucia to Barbados in half an hour.
Yeah, well, Barbados.
No, Michael, let's talk about a stop. You stop
yeah,
somewhere.
Yeah, you stop.
Oh
You
my
stop, and you make
goodness.
2 stops before you get there.
Oh.
Whereas if you have a small aircraft and you may have 7, 8 persons going to Grenada or Dominica, you could just do that direct route.
And that makes sense because now the same point I brought up about the suitcases. If you know when you're connecting a British Airways flight, just fly a bigger aircraft. And if like in the morning, you just fly a smaller aircraft to Barbados, to St. Vincent, or wherever you want to go, so at least you make sure it's filled. So they have those issues to deal with as well. But I was saying that in some of the routes that are pretty small, just get a ferry and run a ferry service there and so on, because with a ferry you can carry as much luggage as you want, and so on.
But some people, like for example, my niece, she lives in Martinique. She will not travel on the ferry for you.
For real?
Guarantee. She said, "What, Uncle? I have to go. The wind and I told her
No,
she does not want to travel on
Strange
ferry
enough,
at all."
strange enough, the ferries we have now compared to the ferries we had 5 years ago, it is a lot more improved. I again during my bout of illness, I had reasons to frequent, how we call it, the express.
Express
to,
Zero?
yeah, to and from Martinique, and I must say the ride is very comfortable, it's enclosed. You could be either in an enclosed compartment, or you could be in an open way, and I don't find the ride is bad at all.
They look pretty posh when I saw it over the weekend, especially the blue one coming in. I thought, that looks like a mega yacht or something. But again, that's one of the issues we need to deal with transportation in the Caribbean. Gentlemen, we're running out of time.
Yeah.
We appreciate as usual, and I guess we'll already be following Parliament on Tuesday to get details of all the questions that we were asking about the loan and so on. So we'll get some more details, hopefully, Ambrose, when Parliament meets on Tuesday, and then the Senate meets later in the week as well to discuss it as well. So next week when they come back, we'll have that and a lot more, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope again. It is a situation where the money that has been borrowed, of course, whilst it will be our children and grandchildren will be the ones to pay for it, that the money is invested in a manner that will take care of these very children and grandchildren. Whilst I believe that governments need to ensure that the borrowing is kind of curtailed, but to me, if the borrowing is to secure the future of our children and grandchildren, money is invested properly, and out of that investment there will be returns. I mean, we can probably look at that and say, okay, well, let's see what happens. But of course, like we know, borrowing from this government and even all other governments at times have been, the monies have just been to put into certain things that there are no benefits. So.
And very quickly, some forward planning before I come to Ambrose. In terms of if we know we're going to build an airport, let's start training people, giving them scholarships so they can manage the airport.
Yeah.
Send them on internships at international airports. Let them. I was listening to a very interesting discussion on Bill Mann, and a producer was saying that when they were some city was hosting the Super Bowl, that he was upset that they didn't have a lot of young producers shadowing the Super Bowl producers to see what they're doing, so you can put on your own show and so on. So that kind of thing, if we're going to build an airport, make sure we train that we don't bring foreign people to come and run the airport.
Subject to correction, I am pretty much sure I read somewhere that whether it's Taiwan or some country, because they were saying the vacancies that will be available at this new airport, new institution, that people need to go into these fields to study, and I think preparations will be made to ensure that locals, through scholarship or whatever means, go and study, and like I said, I'll have to research it, but I think
that ought to be the thinking,
somewhere.
because I hate to think that we have a foreigner running our airport.
Yeah.
Ambrose.
Well, I mean, the thing that worries me the most is I don't know. I have a doom and gloom kind of idea and thought on what's really going on. Don't get me wrong. I'm on my way out.
No, you're not.
The young people, the young people are going to have to deal with this. But at the same time, we are the guardians of the future. And it is my duty of persons like myself to guard the economy, the nation, for those who will come after. I really want to appeal to our leaders to think of the young people, because the truth is, yes, it's all good and well to live beautiful lives now and think you want to turn St. Lucia into a little Miami. But the truth of the matter is, the young people, how are they going to get the revenue stream to take care of these things, and we have to give thought to these things. It's better that we leave them with a country. And at the moment, our debt is so high already, and I'm just thinking of more and more borrowing. It's like, my goodness, when will it end? That's what I think.
Well, let's hope that, well, I'm sure it's almost impossible that when next Parliament meets, they will be borrowing, but we'll monitor and see what happens. If the borrowing is going to continue for the next 2 years and so on, it's going to be quite a massive debt that the next generation has to pay. Michael, appreciate you being here. Ambrose,
yes,
good to have you back, and I hope that you gentlemen have a good weekend.
Yes.
A good week.
A good week.
A good week.
Starting, yes.
And we will see you next week. This is the reality show on Calabash TV. Join us again next week, Monday.
This is The Reality Show.
Connected. Give us 5 minutes and we'll connect you to all things Lusalek. 5 minutes and see what we're doing to get electricity to you. 5 minutes and we'll connect you with Lusalek's planned developments.
This summer, get ready, set for school with the Educator or Educator Plus loan from the St. Lucia Civil Service Cooperative Credit Union. No more back-to-school stress. The Educator loans will take care of everything you need, including school fees, materials, and supplies. Up to $10,000 for primary and secondary students, and up to $20,000 for young adults with affordable payments for up to 4 years. Call or visit us for more information today. The Educator and Educator Plus loan only at the St. Lucia Civil Service Cooperative Credit Union. Save and borrow with pride. Terms and conditions apply.
Together, we can stop many childhood diseases. Help our children grow strong and live healthy. Vaccination. It's our gift of health to your little one. Bring your baby and come get it. It's free. For further information, please contact your nearest community wellness center or private doctor. All in, get vaccinated. Nurses will be visiting homes and schools to verify the health cards of children ages 0 to 5 years old. This is a message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
My sisters, come let us go. Mercy have everything for you. Quality goods, the best for true. Mercy, you can make. Come on. Go in my sisters, cause they're leading. My sisters have everything. Appliance and grocery shopping. My sisters, they have for you. Like you don't understand, well, hear me. Mercy is the best in the country. No other can do it like Mercy. No, baby, no. Tell them back your groceries in a Mercy bag. Mercy stores is asking the country. Johnny comes to help we. And for who did the part, thank you for more heart. Mercy stores is doing everything they can do. Mercy stores, come let us go. Mercy have everything for you. Quality goods, the best for true. Mercy looking at. This is Family Happy for Mercy stores. Our family serving your family. Come on. Na 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 na.
Wow, that got here in record time. Global trade is about competence, customer service, built on a solid quality management system. Export is one way to grow your business. Come talk to the St. Lucia Bureau of Standards about getting on the international market. Call for 530049, ask about certification and how it can bring you local and global success. SLBS, making quality and standards our way of life.